Nathan, we were just hearing that what type of point guard you are on the floor. Casey says you got a nice jumper.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. No, I was an awful player, and it hasn't changed over the years. So, and we quit playing in our 30s. We used to have noon ball games all the time, and then every time I played, I got hurt, so I quit that. And now I'm an old man, get on the elliptical machine, and can't even run anymore. My back hurts every time I run, so it don't move very well, that's for sure.
So after you guys blitzed Arizona here, Dillion made a comment in post-game about if you've been paying attention to Coach Altman's teams over the last few years, we get a lot better throughout the season. Obviously that's true. Even without a key piece, you're playing your best basketball right now. What do you attribute that to?
Well, we really miss Chris, first of all, and moving forward, we've been fortunate. We faced some perimeter-oriented teams, and now we're going to a team that's all inside, or not all inside, but really pounded into Meeks and Hicks. So it's going to be a different type of game, a different animal here. So we really do miss Chris, and I think it's going to show up here in this next ball game. Cabell's going to have to play awfully well, but we've had really good guys to work with. The whole 7 years that our staff's been here, we haven't had one team that hasn't worked with us. Any relationship is twofold. You can have a coaching staff that wants to get better and work hard, and if the team doesn't work with you, there's not much that's going to happen. And we've, to a man, to a team, we've had really good teams to work with. And in that regard, I've been fortunate throughout my whole career that we've had unselfish players that want to try to get better. And this group's no exception. They're talented, but they want to be a good team. They're unselfish. And the thing that probably sets them apart, and Dillion's a big part of it, but the other guys, they're very competitive. When things go bad, they want to fight back and compete. So competitiveness is a really underrated quality. Everybody talks about talent level and physical talent, but competitiveness doesn't do any good to have all that talent if you're not going to compete and if things don't go your way, dig in harder. And this group does a decent job of that.
That being said, Dillion has really learned to control his emotions, get better at that, not let his competitiveness get the best of him, I think.
Well, like you said, he got better at it. He's still got a ways to go, but no, he's done a good job.
Have you talked to him about
that? Oh, geez. How many times? We've gone around and around about it for 3 years. But every young man's different, and he's got a passion for the game, and you can't strip him of that competitiveness. That's what makes him a really good player. But there is that fine line that you're always walking. But I've never had to ask him to practice harder. I've never had to ask him to play harder in the game. He always brings it, and so that's a great quality. But sometimes, he gets going a little fast, and it hurts him, and it hurts his team. But those occasions have been fewer and far between as his career progressed. His freshman year, I had to take him out and sit him there a bunch because he was hurting himself and he was hurting our team. But those times have happened fewer and fewer as his career's moved on.
Did you have an old North Carolina scouting report from Hawaii that you had prepared to get brought out to the league?
No, we weren't moving ahead of ourselves there. So we've watched a lot of film last couple of days. They're not going to try to trick you. They pound those offensive boards. Their transition game's off the charts. They got really good players. They're big. So it's not a case where they're trying to do something to trick you. They just try to beat you with really good players and a really good coaching staff that knows how to put those guys in a position to win.
A little different challenge for Jordan. You mentioned some other guys. Bigs have gone more outside. Now he's kind of got a few bodies he's going to have to bang with him there.
They rotate 4 guys in there, and Cabell's going to have a big game for us. He's going to have to get ready. He's going to have a big game.
After the Civil War, you were talking about concern with rebounding. Seems like you've turned the corner here the last couple of weeks. What's different?
Jordan Bell. Jordan's really rebounding well, and the guys have all chipped in a little bit. I got after Tyler and Dillion Ennis at halftime because neither one of them had a rebound. In the second half, Tyler gets 5, and Dillion had 2 or 3. So, that 8 rebounds in half, that makes a big difference, And so we were able to have a plus margin there. But I think all the guys have realized the significance of it, and that we need all 5 guys rebounding. And especially you take our second best rebounder, stat-wise off the floor, but per minute, Chris was as good as anybody in the boards. And you take him off the floor, everybody's got to pick it up. And fortunately, that competitiveness that I talked about for each of the players comes out. They've done a good job with that.
Dana, this is new territory for this whole team, including you. I know you reached out to some of your coaching friends, but what are you telling your guys on how to prep for this Final Four atmosphere?
We're trying to keep the routine the same as it has been the last 2 weeks. You guys have made it awfully hard, and the national media have made it awfully hard, but we're trying to keep the routine the same. We've had 2 successful weekends. Take it back to the conference tournament, 3 weekends in a row now where we've been at great venues, great crowds, and tough opponents, and this weekend's no different. So it's just a new 4-team tournament that we're going to play in. Crowd's going to be a little bigger, the media's going to be a little bit bigger, but other than that, we're going to try to do everything the same, and I want the team's focus to be the same. I do want them to enjoy it, but they'll enjoy it a heck of a lot more if they stay focused and win a couple games.
Playing this far into the year and without being Chris too, have you guys had to manage fatigue levels at all? Just after Kansas, it looked like some guys were pretty gassed.
Well, they were gassed before the end of the game. 10-minute mark, we were walking up and down pretty bad. We try to keep them fresh. We didn't do much yesterday. We didn't do anything Sunday. We got back late. It was 2:30 here, but 4:30, where we were coming from. So we didn't do anything Sunday, and yesterday we had a light day, and we won't go very long any of the 3 days. It's just a matter of going through 2 or 3 things each day, and we'll have to have a little live action, because it's a full week from Saturday to Saturday before we play. So we got to do some live stuff, but we'll try to keep it at a minimum. Heck, we've been in it 6 months now. If we don't have it by now, we're probably not going to get it. So there's no sense in killing on that.
How are you narrowing down the 2 or 3 things you want to work on each day?
Well, it's pretty easy. I mentioned defensive transition and boards, so that's our emphasis today. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit on our offense. North Carolina's a very good defensive team with their length on the perimeter. Justin Jackson, 6'7", really causes wings problems with his length. So we'll spend a little time on our offense tomorrow, and then we were heading down tomorrow night, get a chance to practice Thursday and Friday there, and hopefully be ready to go Saturday night.
Sorry, I didn't mean that. A lot of times when teams lose an important piece, it can just destroy them emotionally. That's not been the case with you guys at all. Have you even been surprised by that? Really impressed? Have you been in the locker room thinking, man, I didn't know we could play this well without him?
Well, we talk to all our guys all the time about, you're judged by how you overcome adversity. Adversity within the game, you get a couple fouls real quick. Somebody twists an ankle, somebody gets hurt. There's adversity all the time, and when things are going good, it's easy. Everybody can handle it. But we're judged by how we handle tough times, and our guys have stepped up. And I haven't been surprised that everybody stepped up a little bit. But again, the matchups have been in our favor without Chris, and that changes a little bit this weekend. So we've had some perimeter-oriented teams, and now we face a team that's interior-oriented. We're going to have to play a lot better.
Coach, what are some of the challenges of playing a basketball game in a football stadium?
We've only done it once since I've been here. We did it a few times at Creighton, even going back to Kansas State, we did it a few times. It's not much. As long as you get a couple days to practice, get used to a little depth, behind the baskets. When the game starts, you really don't even notice. But it takes a while to get used to the shooting. That's why I'm glad we got 2 days in there. I think after a couple days it'll be fine.
What are some of North Carolina's weaknesses?
Well, I haven't really found any. They haven't been shooting three really well. I hope that continues a little bit, but their experience at every spot. They've got better depth than we do. Their rebounding numbers, the defensive numbers. Ken Palm's got them 3 in the country. So as far as you're looking stat-wise, there's not a lot of weakness. And they got a coach over there that's been to 9 Final Fours and won it a couple times. And so I don't know. I don't like their powder blue uniforms. Other than that, I don't think they have a weakness. They're pretty good.
Dana, how different is the matchup between Kansas and Carolina, other than, I guess, the size? Are they about the same talent-wise?
Well, it's just, every game's different. And, they, like I said, with Meeks and Hicks and their depth inside, Kansas didn't have that depth inside, so they're much deeper inside. On the perimeter, they've got the same type of talent. Justin Jackson is just like Josh, and Barry, talented point guard. So they're not skipping a beat anywhere, and I think they're a little better inside. So I think it would have been a tough matchup for Kansas also with the interior depth that they have.
You caught a lot of heat from sports radio about calling Kansas the Chicken Hawks. You guys were already gone. They were all over the radio on Sunday. I guess that probably was a vindication for you to go back home and win? Or?
Not really. I mean, I was making a point that if you spend 7 years at Kansas State, there's no way that you have great feelings for Kansas. And, when I was there at Kansas State back in the 80s, introduction, they would throw chickens on the floor. They would paint them red and blue and throw them out on the floor. So at some point in time, PETA or somebody got involved and they quit doing that. But in the 80s, that was common, and the K-Staters called them chicken hawks instead of Jayhawks. It wasn't that big a deal, I didn't think. But obviously my email, now the K-Staters loved it, but KU did. But no, it wasn't meant as anything. I was just going back 30 years, because it's been 30 years. I was an assistant there 86 to 88, and so that 30 years ago, that's what they called me. So
Dana, North Carolina is the only considered blue blood of the group going, with so many fresh faces, new faces to the Final Four. Is that really just another testament to the way college basketball is evolving and the level of play equalizing?
I don't know. I did see a headline: never, almost never, and a blue blood. So it is unusual, I think, to have 3 programs that haven't, 2 that haven't been there, 1 that hasn't been there in 7, 8 years or whatever. So, but North Carolina is the team that's been there, and again, obviously with their experience from a year ago, I think that's an advantage. They've been there, done that. Their players, more so than their coaching staff, the players have been there and done that. So they do have an advantage. But I think Michigan, Walton shot that much further, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be still mad at Dillion Ennis for not fouling. And games are so close. Florida's runner. It just over Wisconsin. With Wisconsin played South Carolina differently. There's just a lot of close ball games that could come out either way, and you got to have a little luck. You got to be fortunate, and for us going to KU or Kansas City and play KU, there wasn't anybody picking us there. So you got to be fortunate. You got to have an edge, and our guys have done a good job.
After campus, you made a point to thank all the former players that have played in this program under you. Did you hear from anyone?
Oh yeah, no, and not only the ones that have played for us. My association was the 7 years, but the players before that, Terrell Brandon, all the players that I heard from, those guys all have a big stake in this. their accomplishments. Obviously, I'm a little closer with the last 7 years because I know those guys a lot better. But before that, there's a lot of history and a lot of ex-players, their work that went into this. But I think ex-players, I hope, take the most gratification from this. Besides our core set of boosters and this team, I hope ex-players take the most because they've all had a part in this. I think they're the building, blocks of everything, the history and the tradition. And Johnny Lloyd and the guys that have been here with us for the 7 years, that's one thing, but everybody.
Fred was at the game in Kansas. He said he was going to anticipate other players from Luke to go at all.
Well, I hope so. I've heard from some of them that are going, and I hope we have a big contingency there of players because, as I mentioned, Freddie and Luke and all the guys going back, Aaron, they've all had a big part of this, and so I hope it's special for them because they should feel a big part of it.
A lot of times over the last couple of years, as you guys have built success, you were always quick to compare kind of the program to where Arizona was at, saying you guys weren't quite there yet to what they had built down there. Has anything changed now? I mean, you still hold them, and you guys are further than they have been around the town so far, but just how do you look at that now? Because you've always been so quick to kind of underplay what you guys have been at.
It doesn't change. It's nice to go to the Final Four. I don't think it's the Holy Grail or anything like that. We still have great respect for the consistency of Arizona's program, what they've been able to accomplish year in, year out. Before our run the last couple years, for 2 or 3 years there, they were the only ones representing our conference with the Garnet, and so no, like I said, it's all matchups. We are very fortunate. So again, I look a lot more at the season than most people. I know everybody looks at March and it's do or die and all that, but for me, those games in conference, it's a long season. They all mean a lot to me. I'm not saying that this isn't special because it is, but 16, 18 game schedule, when you go 16-2 and you're fighting them, for 2 or 3 months, that still means a lot to me also.
Coach, have you felt the significance here in Eugene of making it this far? Are you hearing from people in town?
Well, right now I'm backed up on messages and everything. We do have a job to do. We're trying to get ready to play. I had to put my phone away for a couple hours this morning just to try to get something done. So no, I hope people are excited about it. They should be. 78 years in the making, but this summer, this spring, I'll have time to reflect and talk to a lot of people that have been really supportive, and without them, this wouldn't be possible. But right now, we still got 2 games to go. I hope. I told our guys, I want you to be happy about making it, but that's not the end result. That's not what our goal was. We wanted to make it. It was to win it. So we still got a ways to go.
What does it take to be a good scout player, Coach?
I wouldn't know. I'm not a good one. I do know the sets, I do know the plays, but the movements are really slow, so it's not really good.
Dana, you get to, renew that business relationship with Roy. Can you take me back to those days when you were Creighton, Kansas State, and what that relationship
Well, we didn't at Creighton. We never played them. It was all Kansas State, and like I said, it was 25 years ago. So. He was a young coach at that time, and I was a lot younger. And he was really getting it going in Kansas. We were just barely getting it going in K-State. So it was a long time ago, but we've remained, in touch and do some charity work together. Got great respect for him and what he's been able to do over a long period of time, and the consistency and quality of his program speaks for itself. All right, thanks.